Mapagpalang araw po sa ating lahat. We are happy to be part of this conference. We are from the National Catechetical Study, NCS 2021, Pastoral Action Research and Intervention Project, PARI, of the University of Santo Tomas Research Center for Social Sciences and Education with CBCP Episcopal Commission on Catechesis and Catholic Education. It is an honor to present our research paper entitled Katekistang Malikhain, an exploration to teaching and learning catechesis creatively. I'm Clarence from UST.
Renniel here from Santa Teresa College, Batangas.
And from Rosales College, Antipolo, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Keith from the University of the Philippines, Diliman.
So our research collaboration roots from two things. First is our fascination to the concept and practice of creativity in educational spaces, as we are all teachers just like you. In this particular case, our research focuses on catechetical spaces. Second, this shared interest allowed us to experience creativity in collaboration with the Artists Incorporated, the convener of this conference, where the NCS is implementing a research-based intervention project entitled Katekistang Malikhain, Creative Catechetical Resources. This is an intervention initiative to produce creative catechetical resources. So this presentation follows this outline. So from research focus, argument, methods, and relevant literatures to describing our findings and discussion from NCS 2016 to 2021, our intervention initiative, and presenting sample creative modules. So our research problematizes creativity in catechetical education, guided by the following questions. 1. What difficulties do the catechists face in doing catechesis? 2. Is there a need to teach catechesis creatively? And third one, what creativities can we develop from this process? So in this paper, we argue that as we celebrate the 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines, the teaching of catechesis will be more effective if done creatively. This means reinventing and developing new pedagogies that are relevant to the teaching of our Catholic faith in contemporary times, including the utilization of various platforms such as arts, social media, and technologies. However, such process demands creativity in ideas, pedagogies, relationship, and engagement with communities. Methodologically, we utilize descriptive approach using mixed method results from our survey, interviews, and focus group discussions. Our findings and discussion points are byproducts of observations, narratives, and reflections from both our NCS pastoral action researches and intervention initiatives. So let's get now to the literature. Selected literatures on creativity suggest that traditional methods of teaching are no longer relevant to 21st century learners. And there is a need to be more creative in teaching students, implying that teachers should be creative and should be promoting creativity to make learning successful. And so now I turn over to Renniel to talk about the literature from the Directory for Catechesis. Renniel?
Yes, Dr. Yayet. In the recently published Directory of Catechesis, the methodology in catechesis encourages an effort of discernment, especially for catechists, to rethink pedagogies. As such, the new directory promotes a wide array of pedagogies in teaching catechesis where creativity is at its core. This includes the doing of creative catechetical process that promotes dialogue, reflection, silence, and the utilization of creative forms such as different forms of arts such as music, visual arts, theatrical plays, and dances.
So thank you, Renniel. So what did we find out in implementing both the pastoral action researches and intervention project? In this section, journey with us in understanding the state of teaching catechesis in our country. This will be followed by sharing our intervention story and sample creative modules for teaching catechesis. So we will have now and listen to our research story through Kit. Kit?
Thanks, Dr. Ayat. So our aim is to respond to how the teaching of catechesis can be done more creatively through the introduction of various creative pedagogies. In our NCS 2021 PARI project, our major aim is to energize the Philippine catechetical scene by implementing both pastoral action researches and intervention activities involving catechists, catechetical leaders, and the catechized. The five dimensions of catechetical ministry focused are the following: the catechists, catechetical leaders, catechized, catechetical formation programs, and catechetical human resources. To provide you the context, our study on the Filipino catechists included about 27,000 catechist respondents, majority of whom are nearing senior years and some of them retired, but still willing and committed to teach our Catholic faith mostly to children. Our catechist respondents are overwhelmingly women, and most of them are educated in high school and college. Overwhelmingly, majority of our catechists are lay who are truly making a huge contribution to the work of catechesis around the country. We also found out that catechesis is mostly given to children and is usually done in public schools and parishes. Another fascinating finding is that majority of our catechists are part-time and volunteers, making up more than 2/3 of our catechist respondents. This means that the majority of catechist respondents are not receiving any payment. But for those being given a form of compensation, what they reported receiving were transportation, clothing, honorary allowances, and a mere 4% were paid regular salary. Overwhelmingly, the catechist respondents believe that catechetical formation is necessary. Interestingly, those who have received formation only report to have certificates of trainings. When it comes to content, our respondents identified the following must be prioritized: the Bible, sacraments, fundamentals of faith, and Christian morality. Also, we found out that the use of local languages are preferred by the catechist respondents for the delivery of catechesis. For their catechetical formation, our catechist respondents identified teaching strategies and techniques, visual aids making, lesson planning, as well as the use of educational technologies as priority topics for intervention. Interestingly, storytelling is the most preferred teaching technique of the catechist respondents, while lecture method is their least preferred technique. Another fascinating finding is on teaching aids, which reveals that traditional use of blackboard and chalk, manila paper, and storybooks around the current teaching practice of catechists before the pandemic. This traditional method we discovered also entails a degree of creativity relative to the limited resources accessible to these catechist respondents. This traditional use of teaching aids and observed marginal access to catechetical resources are also reflected in this finding about the factors that make the teaching of catechesis difficult. Our catechist respondents reporting having passive students, passive parents of students, but also inaccessibility of teaching aids and insufficient compensation. In this context, we witness both the resilience and creativity of catechist respondents in making sure that they fulfill their role as catechists. Also instructive in understanding the role of creativity in catechesis are these findings. This time, our respondents are those who received catechesis. They are the catechized. It is fascinating to learn that the first three topics learned from catechesis are prayer, life of Christ, and the Holy Trinity. When it comes to catechetical concepts, our catechized respondents reported learning about the concepts of good, love, and forgiveness. These findings engender the significance of creativity in learning catechesis by our catechized respondents. We would like to believe that these topics and concepts were best learned and remembered by the catechized respondents because of the creativity of their respective catechists when they were growing up. When asked about the contributing factors to an effective catechesis, our catechized respondents identified the following: support of priests, adequate formation of catechists, support of family, friends, and relatives, and access to catechetical resources. These findings support our argument that creative catechesis rests not only in art forms and pedagogies, but also in developing creative relations, which involve hierarchy and synodality.
The second part of our observational findings relates our intervention story. So thank you, Kit, for sharing us with our NCS findings. But this time, we will share with you our intervention story. So this is about the research-based intervention outcomes we call RIO, where we use our findings to implement a specific intervention initiative. In this case, our NCS research team collaborated with a group of cultural artists to respond in producing creative resources based on the narratives told by our catechist respondents and the catechized. We know that both catechists and the catechized are wanting to experience a new set of pedagogies in teaching and learning catechesis. In so doing, we discovered the significance and relevance of creative approach in making this intervention happen. So this gave birth to Katekistang Malikhain, initially led by the Artists Incorporated. The artists are assigned to produce creative catechetical resources to serve as an example in teaching and learning catechesis. Over the last few months, the artists, using insights from the NCS findings, developed and produced catechetical resources with creative modules that intend to help boost and energize catechetical ministry in the country. So responding to this production of creative catechetical sources is the attention to understanding pedagogical component of teaching and learning catechesis. So Renniel, can you tell the story of this intervention?
Yes, Doc. This gave birth to another set of volunteers, mainly religious educators from various institutions who are willing to help in developing creative catechetical pedagogies. So the coming together of this new set of volunteers seems to be providential and timely as a byproduct of creative network across institutions and organizations. As a result, our new set of volunteers for teaching and learning catechesis endeavor to produce a guidebook using a creative approach. Our plan for the first chapter is to first utilize the research findings from our NCS project to explain the state of teaching and learning catechesis in the country and argue about the need for new catechetical pedagogies using creative techniques. For chapter 2, we use the underlying creative ideas found in the methodology in catechesis of the new Directory for Catechesis as creative conceptual frame in writing this guidebook. In order to practice creativity, Chapter 3 introduces 12 selected pedagogies intended to introduce teaching and learning techniques for more effective catechesis. These are parables, prayers, lecture, storytelling, poetry, songs, dance, theater and films, drawing and photography, nature, silence, biography, and life stories. Chapter 4 then envisions to contextualize creativity relative to the varying state of catechetical ministry in the country. In so doing, this chapter encourages both the catechists and catechized to enter into a creative journey of teaching and learning catechesis. In writing this guidebook, we know that being creative in its content and delivery is equally important, particularly when it comes to language. Thus, our intention is to write a guidebook in both Filipino and English. This recognizes the role of language in creativity and the significance of creativity in the use of educational language, and in this case, in catechesis. So allow us to share with you two examples of these pedagogies. first is the use of art and photography, where creativity is observed to open the doors of meaning and give access to spiritual and symbolic sphere more than just memorizing religious facts. This approach, using art and photography, engenders understanding faith in multiple ways, where students can express both insights and concepts creatively.
Now let us
Thank
welcome Nathan to speak about another sample pedagogy, which is lecture, the least preferred approach of the catechist. Go, Nathan.
Thank you, Doc Yayet. Now, another example is reinventing the least popular catechetical approach, which is panayam or lecture, to promote a more dialogic approach to teaching and learning that actively involve both the catechist and the catechized. This introduces the notion of the learner-centered approach in doing the lecture. This entails transforming the role of catechists as facilitators of sharing Catholic faith with the catechized as fellow learners. We believe that the application of the learner-centered approach in teaching catechesis has a positive outcome in the deepening of faith amongst the catechized. The catechetical lecture could be fun if there would be, the first one, increased engagement and participation, increased knowledge retention, and the promotion of self-efficacy and motivation, especially among those who intended to learn more about our Catholic faith.
Thank you, Nathan. So thus, in conclusion, we learned about the significant role of creativity in understanding our research findings and intervention initiatives in line with the following. First, we learned about the role of creative approach as a working conceptual idea in rethinking that indeed catechesis can be done creatively. Second, we learned about the significance of reinventing and developing new pedagogies in the teaching of Catholic faith using creative approach. The third and fourth insights led us to discover the role creativity plays in the social realm of relationships. In this presentation, we observed and discovered the equal importance of network and educational capital in producing a creative guidebook for teaching and learning catechesis with the help of volunteer religious educators. We call this creativity in communities, especially in the context of catechetical ministry among the catechist, the catechized, and catechetical leaders. Correspondingly, we also observe creativity in relations evolving among us, the researchers, the interventionists, such as the Artists Incorporated, and the religious educators who journey with us in implementing these creative outputs, both for catechetical resources and development of pedagogies. So in ending, we sincerely thank the organizers for this opportunity of exploring the creative approach in the context of teaching and learning catechesis. Ang malikhaing guro sa konteksto ng catechesis ay mga katekistang malikhain. Maraming salamat po.